if you're in the LinkedIn group that we've created, by all means, please play an active role in there. Invite people in. This is definitely, this is before we kick this thing off, just a little disclaimer. By all means, please help us promote this channel, this group. I think it's starting to pick up a little bit of steam, but we'd love to get it, have a lot more. So anything you guys can do as great marketers, I appreciate it. I know Pat does as well. And we want to be able to help as many people as possible. So, and this goes out to everybody who's basically on right now. If you can, if you haven't found Search From Home, it's on LinkedIn. It's a group, requests to join. Or if you have been invited by me already, if I missed you, I'm sorry. I'll make sure to add you. Be sure to join so we can continue the conversations there. People are actually starting to share some really good content. Dan Padmore shared some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Just today. So cool. Let's kick this off. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for Search From Home. As always, co-host Patrick Reinhart. In this case, he's down there on my screen. And we have Michael Brew, who is head of the Brew Group and former, CMO, president, and COO of Acronym Agency. So I think I got all those titles, right?
I think you got everything.
It was a number of years. So.
No, I mean, you would assume that you didn't do them all at the same time, unless you're really good at juggling cats. But nice reference to The Jerk, in case anyone has not seen that movie and has time on their hands. I would highly recommend an oldie but goodie by Steve Martin. A name that doesn't get thrown around very much these days. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys all for joining us. As I was mentioning earlier, feel free to go on to LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn group is live and active. Search From Home is the title of that group. Feel free to share some data. Dan Padmore, actually, I was just saying, put some really great stuff regarding grocery shopping and actually stats around what they were. I think it's called ID. Is it the IDG?
IGD.
IGD. See, there's a little dyslexia for you. And he put some great stuff in there today with some stats. So check that out when you can. You can actually export it, I believe, into PowerPoints. If you can't get the PowerPoints out of there, he forwarded the PowerPoints to me. So I'm more than happy to send those to you. Just let me know. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to get into a little bit of the vision of where you think search sits today. How about you give a little bit of background on yourself beyond me just rattling off some titles for folks who may not know you so they can get to know you a little bit better. And then once we're done with that, we can get into some questions around where you think this is all going.
Cool. So thank you. I think I've watched, listened to almost every one of these, maybe 2 days. I wasn't able to join. Loved it. Love learning from all you guys. I've always leaned towards SEO, even though Acronym Media might have been more 70% media than organic, but always love the organic and content side. I think it does not get enough play in so many different areas, and that's some of the things I want to talk about today. I actually worked with Pat, probably 11 years ago or so at Prime Visibility for a year. Had a little stint there. I had an agency for almost 30 years, a traditional strategic marketing, advertising boutique shop, dealt with only kind of large enterprise brands. As things went digital, it was just kind of time to leave my partner, and Prime Visibility was doing consulting for me. And I went over there to, kind of spend a year as this guy, Steve Rosenberg, bought the company from Andrew Hazen and got to meet Pat. And then there was a little bit more mid-market that they were dealing with, and Acronym found me in 2010. And I met Selena at that point. For those of you that know Selena and Isaac at Conductor, your COO like about the last year and a half. And Selena and I really grew Acronym for about 8 years together, from something relatively small to, kind of what we left it. So I left a year ago. I had a stint in between, which worked out fabulous for me at WeWork. It was a great opportunity to help bring media buying and SEO in-house. So they were using Conductor's product, as you guys all know, of course. Adam, bought the company. He didn't like the holding company setup. They were out for like $100 million RFP. And Selena said, hey, I got this guy, Michael. He can come in and develop this in-house team. And it was a fascinating 7 months. Got out right before the shit hit the fan, which worked well. I kind of packaged out of there. They did the right thing, which was awesome. And it was a great opportunity. Learned a lot. First time being inside of a brand and watching the difficulties, the process and difficulties, both from, content and organic, and even more so on media. So many issues. And a lot of people are looking to bring media buying in-house. And there's just so much that goes on with that. But it was a great run. Saved them. I like to say I think, the only human hired to save money at WeWork. And did.
Sorry, that was worth unmuting myself for. Yeah.
Yeah, I saved them about $1 million in Latin America. We were building like a 40-person team versus, you can imagine the millions being spent in agency fees. So that's kind of my background, the acronym part, great brands. Again, a lot of, we really looked at, when we had the opportunity to look at the synergy between organic and paid search. A lot of people talk about it. I don't think there's a lot done about it. But what I really wanted to talk about was, the market today. Some things I see, a couple of cool articles I'll link into the chat in a little bit. But I really think, I don't think things are going to come back the way some people are talking about them coming back. I think on the media side, and that's where I think, SEOs have such an opportunity right now to become so much more important to a brand. And I just think, maybe it's the SEOs have been like, I don't want to say like the black sheep of the performance family, because it's taken for granted. It's like SEO is in-house. This is easy. They're coming to my site anyway. Why should I have to pay for this? It's all the things you guys deal with every single day being SEOs. So that's kind of what's hanging over you on one side of it. I think the media people are way more aggressive, and, media is right now. Right, as far as performance goes. So, brands look at everyone, unfortunately looks so much short term. It's the problems SEOs have in convincing brands around really investing in content properly, really understanding top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and how that's going to impact downstream and how it impacts media downstream. But I think now is the time that SEOs can step up and get a seat at the table. And that's what I really wanted to talk about, right? Because it tends to be, they're not speaking with the CMOs as much. And I've spent my life, the whole time at Acronym, I was selling into CMOs, CEOs, board members of these companies involved in the pitches, because media is the big expense, right? So if they're going to spend, 15, 20, 30 million in media, and maybe, 500,000 in SEO, the 500,000, it's not a big deal in the scheme of things. And it gets blended into these RFPs. But now I really believe is the time, right? So look at the dynamic of what's happening. Agencies, furloughing people, laying people off. Brands, unless you're an big e-com site, brands laying people off. Lots of great talent that's out there. Well, the SEOs that have remained, I think it's time to really focus on business impact. And that's kind of the differentiator I found at Acronym. We went into brands and kind of like turning things, kind of literally flipping around the way you approach a brand. So the typical way that I've seen it is you look at search, and that people look at search impact. So I look at traffic, from the, paid side, CPC, CPM, CPAs, conversion. Then I look at marketing impact, share of voice, awareness, conversion, and then I look at business impact. And I believe it's the complete wrong way to be looking at your brands today. If you want to be a player and really get in with, the head of marketing, get into the CMO. So if you flip this around and you look at business impact first, that's what Accenture, Deloitte, McKinsey, if you go to their sites and you look at how they look at this as consultants, and I believe SEOs are consultants. Yes. You guys are content strategists today, right? This is complete consultancy on how you approach this. It should be the opposite of just wanting to drive traffic to a website or improve ranking, because very often it's not around where the business wants to have the impact, because the SEOs aren't in the room. They're not getting the right information from the brand on really where I need to be, driving traffic, where I need my focus. And each of those are different. So if you take, I'm going to use my hands as Stephan has done in the whiteboard, but business impact first, and you have customer revenue and ROI, let's say in business impact. Then you look at the objectives against that. For customers, what are the objectives? They're different depending on the type of customer I want to bring to the site. There's total traffic, there's sales. And then what are the tactics that it's going to take to hit those objectives? That is a different way of looking at it. The content mapping, landing page optimization, lead quality review, link building. What am I going to do? Visibility benchmarking. How am I going to look at that? Those tactics that really come back to meet the business impact I want to have. Same thing with revenue.
That makes complete sense. I was going to say, it's interesting. While I listen to you, I'm thinking about how and this is not for my PPC friends to think badly whatsoever. So I don't want anyone taking this the wrong way. But media is a light switch, right? It's supposed to be instantaneous, to your point, and it's also supposed to be easy. And I mean easy, that doesn't mean you not knowing which light switch to hit when is not a challenge, right? But Google and everyone else has built systems so that our media doesn't require 15 people to get on board with a topic or an understanding or an approval process in order to go to market, right? Whereas in SEO, we live in a world where you have to cajole, coerce, herd, in terms of cats, I find. Another cat reference. Wow, I'm making a lot of those in today's.
You don't even own a cat.
I don't own a cat. I'm allergic to cats. So anyway, but in this case, definitely allergic to herding cats, because it's a very hard thing to do, even though I seem to be a cat wrangler by nature. And that whole idea of SEO is this, if treated like a tactic, it is definitively the last thing people get to, right? Mm-hmm. If it is treated like a, I don't know, there's a certain amount of, and sorry to just diatribe on this slightly, but there's a certain amount of everyone in your company has to do PR. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, in other words, there are certain standards you're held to as a professional in your company. If you started cursing at a client and like doing things, that would be deemed unprofessional. It would be deemed unacceptable in many places. It would be problematic. Or if you went off and did something bad, there's a code of conduct. So we believe at the very, essence that people have to be an example of the company they work for to a degree, right? In that, we all carry that as a part of us, and we all kind of go through our day-to-day at work or whatever, knowing that we represent our companies. We're not PR professionals, but it's a thing we keep as part of us. Not everyone feels that for search. Why would they? At least not even on the digital team, right? It's like when we get to search will take care of search. But in reality, when you think about it and flip it on its head, to your point, we're trying to solve a business problem, like a new product comes out, a new service is being offered. Are we sourcing the data from search? Have we done the research? Do we know not just the MSVs, which I think is step number one to bringing to the table that we're not invited to in the first place? And I agree with you, Michael. Bringing that information as to how and who's searching, but also what do they find, right? No one talks about what they find. So it's like, I'll give a really quick one that you guys might have heard me say in the past. Had a very large, no longer in business, so you can guess who this is, toy company as a client 1 million years ago. And they went and named a product something very bad. They didn't know at the time they named this product something very bad. But when we actually found the sites that were showing up in the top 10 in Google for them, they were pornographic. Now, where's the last place you want a kid's toy company to show up? Right? Around a bunch of porn sites. Now, I don't think they could own all of page one for that. But, someone didn't take the time to do a query before they named a product. But naming a product isn't SEO, so why should I care, right? We'll get to SEO at the end because it's tactical. That's where I think we've we have allowed ourselves to be, quarantined all the way over there, right? All the way in the corner. And no one puts SEO in the corner. In fact, maybe that's the title of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, this all goes back to, you know, SEO becoming a cultural thing and not a tactical thing. You know, and like companies who look at it as a tactical thing typically are cleaning up afterwards, which is what you always say, Stephan. It becomes more of a janitorial service than
digital janitors.
Exactly. And the companies that do the best are when they get everyone involved, whether that's the content team, the paid team, you know, executive, you know, buy-in is very important, of course. You know, all of these different groups come together, and when they have SEO built into the process. And the funny thing is, once you get to that point, it's actually not like, once they realize it's not the end of the world to just go out, do a little bit of keyword research or talk to some person on XYZ team, you know, to see if this is, you know, something, take an extra email or two to kind of get a good answer. You know, that's when, you know, that light goes on, and then they start to see the research, because all you need is for them to create something, for them to put it out into the world, and for it to start to get traffic, because then you start to get the bug, you start to get the itch. You're like, oh man, I actually can, you know, put this out there, and that extra email or two got me a return. You know, so that's really where I think a lot of companies are going to go now. I mean, we've been seeing that shift fairly slowly over the last few years, but I think after everything going on now, you know, I think that will accelerate that process.
Yeah. So the idea is, how do we help get there faster, right?
Yeah.
Because we know this is like an internal problem within all of these companies that, you know, SEO is not looked at. I think it's the single biggest channel for so many brands, right? And the most efficient channel. When you look at your cost per leads, cost per engagement, when you really break this down, which I think SEOs are kind of like afraid to do, or maybe, again, I'm not an SEO like you guys, but get so hung up on the tactics and the, you know, the skill sets, you know, and what's behind the puzzle to figure this out, right? There's just the brain trust that it takes to be a great SEO. It's very different than the media guys who are like great at Excel sheets. I'm not taking this away from media guys, right? But it's very different how you watch media and tweak the levers within big tools and, you know, whatever you might be doing to make changes to make that work. SEO is so much more complicated. And I think it's, you know, we need to come up with the right few points that can help internal people that we work with, that SEOs work with, to get, first of all, get the right information. To your point, you're not at the table, right? The SEO is not at that marketing table with the CMO. How do we get there? What are the business questions I can be asking? And then when you come back with some of that competitive data, visibility, benchmarking, that's the stuff that, and it needs to be in English. It needs to be simple for these guys, right? That's the other thing I've learned. I've gotten hung up with some, you know, multi-billion-dollar brands, and they've come back to us and said, okay, you know, the board will only understand two KPIs, traffic and revenue. And now, without even talking to the agency or to, you know, SEOs, they have traffic as a KPI. We have to increase traffic. You can go buy crap traffic. That it's not traffic and revenue. How do we exit within each category? You know, example in hospitality, right? It would be bookings, or it would be, you only have so many controls within some of these areas. It's not the revenue itself, but can I drive more bookings? You know, again, it's quality traffic. How can I create more efficiency? So I think if we can start, I mean, that's why I want to throw it out to the team, to the group here, and get some thoughts from them, but think business impact. How do we first go to, you know, the most senior people that you guys are working with, or your counterpart within a brand that, you know, that you're working with, to go get the information on what is the business trying to do? What's the next quarter, 6 months, the next year? What are the new products? What are the new features coming out? But if you can understand what the business really wants to do, I think it could be a game changer for SEOs. Last thing, and then I'll open up the conversation. I mean, just the last couple of days, I don't know if you guys saw yesterday in Search Marketing Media Post Group M, you know, really getting increases in SEO within their RFPs, you know, on the agency side, on the agency team. I'll shoot it, you know, into the channel. And Forrester last week put out I didn't get looks like the webinar is online. I'll put this link in, but they did a put your customer first when building your pandemic proof marketing strategy. And of course it's like, hey, turn off let's not focus as much on lower funnel marketing initiatives right now, right? And that's where people have been cutting back on media. So that is all content, right? Everything else now is, because people are going to be tone deaf, is, you know, their term in here, to just trying to sell shit right now. It's how do we get our content contacts within these brands focused on what we believe they should be focused on.
Yeah, and I think you're dead on. One of the things that people need to figure out in this kind of this kind of world is, where's your company? If your company is like some of the folks I know on this call, I won't call them out, you are pretty scared about where things are going next, right? The companies themselves wonder whether or not they're going to stay in business. Making money is fundamental to them, and they're going to focus really on that, of crowding the register, right? And then there's others who are luckily not in that same position, but they're in the middle ground, right? They're going to have to evolve as a business because this new world requires them to do so in the short term, or sometimes taking those short-term solutions and then recognizing them as solutions for the long term, and realizing that, hey, changing my distribution model now allows me to service people in a different way I never was able to do before. And therefore I have now upped the game. And rather than just making my classes digital for the short-term interim, I can now turn that into an entire other revenue stream I never thought of, right? And when COVID hopefully goes away soon, we will see these businesses continue to invest in those aspects, and they're going to still need content, and they're still going to need acquisition and all the other aspects of that. And they're also going to have to be recognized as brands. So I'll caveat this. I want to open this up to everyone to start chiming in. I also want to think about where, and Michael, maybe I'll throw this to you before we open up fully. What's the difference in your mind between brand marketing and early stage marketing? Because this is something I have an issue with. There are literally people called brand marketers at companies, right? And their job is just like, real listenership is actually a number that could matter to them, right? Did someone hear my ad? But we also write early stage content without the intent of that content actually converting anyone. It's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be additive, right? It's supposed to expose my brand at that moment and allow me to hopefully provide value to someone. And because the value that provided at some point in some other channel potentially, or even my own, they will come back, sometimes in a branded search, and we will get them, right? But there is no way for me to measure that value, just like there is absolutely no way you can measure the billboard that was put in Yankee Stadium aside from a bunch of eyeballs saw it. But you can't correlate that back to the actually took action. So how do you see that kind of working?
Yeah, so I mean, I think big advertisers look at brand advertising, literally, Nike, just do it. They look at like building that awareness around the brand, not specific to what shoes, what clothes, golf, what sport they're in, that it's this broad brand. And then what does the brand stand for? Okay, I think is how the big marketers, because they have guys, just focused on brand. I think early stage content then relates to everything about maybe that product area. So again, if I'm, let's use Scott's Miracle-Gro, who's
Sure.
a client of your guys and us for quite a while. Early stage content could be about, how to have the freshest, make the best pasta sauce or the best vegetables for my kids. Well, the best way would be to be growing your own vegetables, right? That would be the first thing to do without selling Scott's as, the stuff you should be using to have a great garden, but putting out that early stage content around health and what that means to grow your own vegetables and how much healthier your kids are going to be and so forth. So, and then leading it to, into, of course, well, Scott's delivered that information. It was useful. It was great content. When it comes time to me thinking actually about the garden, hey, I'm going to go check those guys out. So that's the way I look at early stage content, kind of that, upper funnel, way more related to any kind of product, feature, area, topic versus, overall brand.
Yeah. And another point that you made me think about too, that I think gets overlooked. If anyone on this call is part of a publicly traded company, now this is going to be tough, especially right now, because, well, let's face it, people are revising numbers as they're putting them out. the quarterly earnings statement, and I've talked about this for years. Will Reynolds has a whole bunch of people, but look at the quarterly earnings statements. If you're in an agency, look at your client's quarterly earnings statements, right? Look at those aspects. What is the CEO, what is the C-suite saying there or promising the street they're going to do, right? Because it's all about, and this is a quick one, but it's all about an orb on a desk. We used to have these orbs, right? And these orbs were these pretty cool things, and they were tied to Searchlight, our product, and they would change colors depending on how your rankings were doing, this average weird score we had. And I'm talking like, this is like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So these orbs are no longer. Actually, they might be in a back closet somewhere in our office. They worked on beeper technology. So I guess just to give you a sense of where technology was at there, when drug dealers stopped using beepers, this company said, well, there's a network, so we'll use it to make things change color. Anyway, this orb is sitting on this guy's desk in this major organization, and he's an SEO, lowly SEO, let's call him. And the CMO of the North American group is walking through the office and sees this orb pulsating color on his desk and stops and asks him, what's that? And the what's that moment turns into a conversation about search. And that 30-minute conversation, impromptu, about actually 15, about search at his desk becomes a 1-hour standing monthly meeting about search with the CMO of North America that didn't know this person's name previously. So in the flattened, everyone's a video call away group that we now are, the very informal concept of that I'm talking to you from my house and I'm talking to you at your house, we have the opportunity to have those conversations and bring these things to people's attention. So if we have information that leads to, if you have information that leads to something that could be beneficial because the company has been willing to tell Wall Street that they're banking on that, you should absolutely figure out what that is, get around that topic, do all the research you can, and send it up. In fact, I know a guy who did that at Dell, and his reporting was seen by Michael Dell. Now, Michael Dell didn't know who the hell he was, but he did know after that, which was pretty damn amazing, right? So I think if you can recognize what those touchstones are for your company, and it doesn't always have to be public. I mean, these could be things that they're sending in internal emails, whatever they're sending to your overall company, or ask these questions. Where are we trying to go? What are the new products? What are the new features? This to me is a real opportunity for you to step up and be a business leader, not just a channel leader or even a marketing leader, but a business leader.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think at that point, a lot of folks who are in these positions sometimes, feel like they're just going to be ignored, right? So let's say you do all this, and that's great. And I've seen people experience this firsthand. They do all the work, they put it together, they send it off, and then crickets. You know what I mean? Like they don't get anything, they follow up, they don't get anything back. What are your thoughts on that? I've always said, obviously I'm an in-person person. I would just walk into like the president's, office and be like, hey man, what do you think about this? Or hey person, how do you think about this? But a lot of people aren't comfortable doing stuff like that. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, is it at that point, for me, I always like to walk into someone's office and have a conversation, or walk into someone's, over to someone's desk to get their attention when I can't get them through email, because I think email, everyone gets, especially in leadership gets hundreds, if not thousands of emails a day, and a lot of that stuff can be lost easily if it's not presented properly. What are your thoughts on that?
Who's taking that one?
Can I chime in on that? Merch,
yeah.
It's a perfect segue into what I said on LinkedIn. I've been sending emails out to CEOs of companies in the last week. I'm like 3 for 3. Like,
yeah.
Awesome.
Yesterday I sent, I think it was the CEO of Nextdoor, because I want food trucks to go to neighborhoods, which we've talked about. She responded to me within an hour. And I've been at a big company. I used to work at Intuit, and I was not a manager. I was like associate, like marketing manager. I was pretty low. And at Intuit, and I imagine at most companies, there's a layer of middle management whose job it is to stay safe. Don't rock the boat. Don't let stuff come from the bottom that might jeopardize what you're fighting for, right? And so, you know, going above that middle management might be a good process to practice. For me right now, just sending out, you know, emails to CEOs, there's nothing to lose. So I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. That's a great point, man. I love that you did that. And for anyone who hasn't seen what Merch is talking about, you should check it out on our LinkedIn group. Michael, I'm calling you out. We want you in that group. But yeah, I mean, absolutely get in there and look at that. And by all means, Merch, you know, give us a little more insight if you want on that. But
Yeah.
I think that like being willing to take that risk,
Yeah.
I was going to say Gretzky it, Pat. Like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So it's like if you get crickets, yeah, it sucks. But you know, if the shoe didn't fit, they won't wear it, and you walk away. But like not taking the shot isn't a good enough excuse in my mind for like not trying. I don't know. I'm that kind of person. Maybe some other people
Yeah, I mean, and it comes back to the type of person you are, right? I mean, Stephan, goes back to when we started Pro Services. It's Conductor, right? You know, we just started doing stuff. You know, we didn't, and then we would go to Seth and, you know, we'd say like, hey, we've been doing this for a month, or hey, I sold this, and, you know, I know we don't technically do it, but I really think it's a good idea. And sometimes it's better to ask for, you know, forgiveness than permission, because it gets innovation going faster. Sometimes that makes people angry, but here we are. You know, but you know, at the end of the day, I've always been like, hey, let's just go and try it. Let's go and do it. You know, not haphazardly and not in a way that it would hurt the brand or hurt your team or anything like that. But I think that if you know something is such a good idea, like, you know, Merch, even you just sending emails out to CEOs, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? What's the worst? The worst thing that can happen is that they say no, but they can't say no to a question you never asked.
Exactly. And the way I think about it right now is they're literally just like us. They're at home with their kids with nothing to do. They're just waiting for somebody to ask them for help so they can actually feel productive.
Yeah, but also what you're providing there, and I think this is really important, and it goes back to Michael's first point, which is I think it needs to be timely and relevant.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And you are providing both. You're saying, I have an opportunity in the COVID situation currently to do something that could be helpful to people, right? Because it's going to be helpful to the businesses that own the food trucks. It's going to be helpful to the people who need the food, right? And I'm going to make it available, and I'm the one helping you wear the cape and be the superhero. Do you want this cape? Now, that to me is like I want to be a superhero. Like that if I have 15 things I can do in my inbox right now, superhero just became number one. But I didn't have that 15 minutes ago because your email wasn't in my inbox. You know, people want. I'm very shitty at sewing. Sorry. So the odds that I can make masks for first responders is like 0. But if I can do something to make myself in this time of helplessness, because I think that's the other key too. Right now, specifically, I don't know about you guys, but I feel helpless. I feel very helpless. I'm able to help my company, right? I'm able to help others by doing this, which is the reason why I will keep doing this, irrespective of how many people show up or don't show up, because I'll be here. And it's not that I like to hear myself speak or I like helping people. So and I think a lot of the people that are joining here on a consistent basis do too. This gives me a purpose. Granted, it's a very small one compared to the rest of the world right now, but it's something. I think you, Merch, are providing something that actually is bigger than that, and I commend you for it. I think it's wonderful because it directly will help save businesses, and it will directly help people, and that's what I think people want. Everybody wants to do something. Where's my Rosie the Riveter? Like, I need something, you know, but I don't know what to do. So I'm glad that Lily Ray, who was on last week, is providing these opportunities for digital marketers to step up and help small businesses. I too have been trying to do that on LinkedIn and helping people out in different forums and stuff. I think this can be hopefully a place for us to do that as well. So,
hey, look, I think SEO, it is helpful in, you know, keeping people employed, keeping writers employed, keeping tech people employed, you know, coming up with more than media right now, since this is going to be shut down for some time. Everyone's concerned, right? Media's cut back, and it's going to come back slowly, and brands are going to want to be really efficient when it does come back. So if, as SEOs, one of the things I don't think SEOs do enough of is put a stake in the ground against ROI. I think brands ask for it. SEOs tend to try and avoid it. I pushed my guys. I didn't care what they told me. I pushed for an ROI. No, I don't. You can show me what's it going to be in the next 6 months, year, 2 years out. That's okay. But show me that ROI against, you want me to spend, $300,000-$400,000 in SEO? I want you to show me what I'm going to get for it. So I do think it will keep people employed. Even, again, if you guys are SEOs working for brands, you're consulting, your agencies, you're within a brand. Hey, it's what's in it for me. You're going to help your boss, whoever your supervisor is, when you bring some new thing to the table around going to your supervisor. Talk to me about the business right now. We have time to talk business. What's the goal of the company? A short term, we're dealing with something that, is hard for us to wrap our heads around, but we know where the business is going to go in a few months. It is going to turn back on, and we can have this impact. And in this more quiet time, we can be developing competitive analysis around where the business really wants to go. The senior managers love that. They understand competitive analysis. Why my two competitors are beating me around these topic areas that really impact this product I have? That's stuff that they get right away. Okay, how am I going to address that? We're going to address it with content. You have nothing on FAQs. You have no, what is this? You guys know what you need to do once you can get someone to, free up the money, say, I'm going to get behind this. But it's figuring those things out that I think we can do right now.
Yep. And you're right, because you know what? I actually want to bring in Trevor into the conversation. Trevor, I see you down there. You're on my bottom of my screen here. You're like in my my Brady Bunch mode right now. I've got Brady Bunch mode going where I've got a whole bunch of family. I'm going to take a screenshot later and throw it up. But Trevor actually did this creatively with one of his clients, brainstorming. I want you to tell the story about it, because I think there's value there. And I think, frankly, like his brainstorming with his client very much could have saved that client's business. So it's more than just him as a consultant, helping them do better organically or in digital, but rather, his thinking through things with his client really allows him to step it up another notch and help their business. And that will allow for those businesses to be on the other side of this thing and have the conversation you need to, because some businesses will not be able to weather the storm. That's what scares me, right? There are some industries, I wonder if the movie theaters will be back later. Like, I might get used to just watching stuff on my couch, and then maybe the big screen doesn't matter anymore. But the point I'm making is simply, there are heroes in this. They're not all in the hospitals. And Trevor, yeah, I'm calling you a hero, but hopefully we'll see how the patient ends up in the end here. But like, I think the fact that you were able to brainstorm this idea with the client was a real bout of creativeness that I think SEOs are very adept at, because our entire job is to be creative with data and creative with what the heck's happening, because most of the time we don't have control over it. Right. So Trevor, why don't you just introduce yourself real quick to the group and then tell your story?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stephan. Hi, everyone. I want to thank Stephan as well for, giving me some of the insights and advice that led to some of that too. Real quick, I own a very small digital marketing agency in Minnesota. So one of the things we did when this whole thing hit was just to try and figure out with our clients what we could do to help them out. What I'm seeing in a lot of places is, although this is a terrible thing, there's a lot of opportunity that wouldn't have been an opportunity before, or, there's a lot of really creative solutions that businesses are coming up with. We just sat down with all of our clients virtually, of course, and, just figured out what we could do. So some of them were, heavily service-based companies going out to customers or having customers coming in, and had people tell us things like, the phone's completely stopped ringing, that kind of stuff. We had several clients put us on pause, but others are also doing reasonably well, and some are seeing an uptick. So it is a mixed bag, but without rattling on for too long, I don't want to take up airtime.
No, just tell them about the one particular client that.
So it was an import auto service repair shop, and in the Twin Cities, and obviously a lot of people bringing their vehicles in, and when people aren't traveling around so much and aren't allowed to travel, people basically stop coming in. And so one of the things we brainstormed with them was, is there any way that they could, go pick up the car? And they had to work this through with their staff. It wasn't an easy thing they could do. They had to figure out a safe and good process they could do to do that. And so they posted on Facebook about what they were doing. They turned an old VW camper into a waiting room with a little minibar so people could sit out there as well, which I thought was a really cool little touch as well. But yeah, so one of the things that Stephan suggested was that they actually videoed the whole process so they could actually go and show the customer, hey, here's what we can do for you. And I think Stephan alluded to it, we're moving more from a tell to a show phase, where you've really got to show your customers what it is you're doing for them. And we have the tools to do that now. And, a lot of businesses that don't embrace that aren't really going to succeed through this. So I think it's a big opportunity. It's also a big challenge.
Yeah. And like merch. So going back to your point with the trucks, right? You get next door to help, then you do a video of that food truck pulling up, right? You hopefully are able to get out there, or you get them to film themselves, and showing the impact it's having. You show the smiling faces of people now able to get food from a food truck, or how they're delivering food up into a building, and have someone just videotape that. You bring that back to one of the very valuable and yet available video editors that are out there right now. And you just got yourself a little video that next time you send an email to the CEO of whatever company, you're going to say, listen, we just did this with Nextdoor. I want to be able to do it with you guys. Here it is, right? Not tell, but show. Right now, I'm willing to get on a video. I will spend a lot more screen time than I ever have before, because there is no water cooler here.
And that's one thing we haven't done a good job of. We've never done a good job of video, and we don't even have to wait for Nextdoor. I know somebody at the company who lives in Los Angeles and can go get lunch right now and make a video.
Do it. I mean, that's the point. Like this is, and the beautiful part about it right now, no one's going to judge the video quality.
Yeah.
Is anyone on this call judging how good your webcam is? I mean, yeah, I've talked about this before. Would be great to get a nice webcam. They also take like a month to get from Amazon, and B, they cost like $200 to $300 or up. So I was like, yeah, I'll invest in this thing. But like beyond that, like I said, I have a face for radio. You guys don't need to see me in high def. And I don't shave very frequently anymore. So it would be more of a challenge for me. So anyway, point is, I think that's, people are not going to actually, I was just talking to a prospective client yesterday, and we were just talking about how his video guys don't have a ton of stuff to work from. I've also appreciated, by the way, watching commercials. Have you guys been very keen on watching the commercials and recognizing that the message is often tied to imagery that they probably had as stock, and that it's not actually images around the topic? Like Ashley Furniture did something I thought was interesting. They had two dogs sitting there, and they're like, you've always wondered what they've been doing. Now and it's all about home office furniture, because now you're around your dogs more, right, in the middle of the day. So do I think that they had that sitting around? No, they don't. So people that don't necessarily have a ton of B-roll, and it's not easy to go out and shoot right now, animation, let's go. That's also a type of video. We're forgetting that. There are a lot of powerful, valuable animators sitting at home, and they can make video for you. So create some video content. I think that's a really good way to solve for some of these things. Don't just tell, show.
Yeah, I think I think that's something that we've been hitting on too, is that, and it might have been you who said this, Stephan, is that, after this, everyone has realized that they're a content creator, right? Everyone can just pick up their phone and, create a short video, put it out on LinkedIn. I mean, I've seen more and more almost like diaries, like work diaries on LinkedIn. There's a lot of folks out there who are just kind of talking to people around their office, talking about a win that they had, a challenge that they had. And I always enjoy those, just to see how other people are dealing with, with different issues, not necessarily what's going on today, but just like, regular day-to-day issues. I know, and I almost wish that I had been doing that over the last, few years, as we were building out, a lot of stuff to Conductor, because there's a lot of interesting stories that no one will ever hear in these types of processes. Everyone like now, yes, we're all home, but even like moving forward, I think we're going to see more people doing that, just kind of picking up their phone and going live and saying, hey, here's what's going on today. We have an interesting project, of course, not giving out any customer details. but I think we're going to see a lot more of those like personal stories that are out there, you know, and not just, you know, putting out inspirational stuff on LinkedIn or, you know, putting out there on Facebook or Twitter, but actually documenting, you know, like what the day-to-day is. And I think putting, you know, a lot, like what I'm anticipating, like there's this one person on LinkedIn, and his name is escaping me at the moment, which is horrible. I'll find it. That does these things on a weekly basis, and he finds someone in his office and he puts his iPhone up and he just talks to them about them, what they're doing, and it's great. And you know, and like projects they're working on, and I could see him stitching those together as like, you know, here was 2020 or here was 2019 with all these very personal stories around an industry, and that's great for the brand. I mean, that's great for his company's brand, that's great for his personal brand, but also for all the folks that he's talking to, gives them a chance to share their stories for folks who would never ever do that. You know, a lot of folks are very uncomfortable being on camera. You know, Stephan, not like, you know, you and I who are probably on camera too much, you know, and, you know, from that standpoint, like, I think you're going to see like a lot of people kind of realize that they are comfortable doing this. They are comfortable creating content, and that's good for the company. Because I've always said, like, I wish, you know, every conductor was going out there and putting stuff on video on LinkedIn saying what's up. But I understand why some people don't want to. But I think we'll see a shift a little bit in that, with people who may have not been comfortable before will now feel like they'll be much more comfortable after this, because they've had to be on video just for regular calls. You know,
right.
I've never
extrovert.
Yeah, I've never been on video this much. Like, you know, I'm on video for 9 hours a day. I mean, that's not usually what I am on a day-to-day basis. But I can tell you, I've enjoyed it because it allows me to see people and see their reactions, see nuances that get lost through email. You know what I mean? That, you know, and like video and all this type of stuff is a great way for people to connect on a day-to-day basis. And I'll probably continue to do this as time goes on, encourage people to turn on video.
Yeah. There are things, you know, again, a lot of the conversations have been personal, you know. I'm glad this one like led right into business today, but things you're doing with your family, I'm sure all of you, FaceTiming, you know, with your family, group FaceTimes. I have kids in Indianapolis, DC, my other son's in the city, my dad's in Florida, and like we're getting on group FaceTimes together, you know, so video is becoming, you know, my 86-year-old dad, you know, was able to experience, you know, 6 bubbles up there floating around the screen, and embracing video, you know, in that way. So I do agree with you. It is what's happening. The more of it we can, the more we can bring. But again, going back to what's that business challenge, you know, some in the chat box, someone talked about how can we do something more quickly to maybe impact, since SEO takes a long time. Video is certainly it. Understanding the business challenge, and then maybe using social listening to find some niche, some nuanced thing. Because, you know, if I'm not fighting, you know, within a giant category, SEOs, there's no way around it. It's going to take a while. But maybe there are niche conversations going on that right away you can have your brand play a role in with video content, and show some really fast impact.
I love that idea. Here's one to piggyback on that. Okay, so you have a business problem that you know your business can solve, and your company is actually, you know what? Now I'll make this real. I'll make this really real. My brother-in-law just got laid off. Just got laid off yesterday from an advertising company up in Canada, who does auto advertising because they deal with dealerships. So it's a temporary thing, supposedly for now. We'll see. But the concept there, and I told him, why don't you do this? You have very close relationships with your auto dealerships. You know them, right? So why don't you bring them together, much like what we're doing here? Why don't you bring them together either for a video call to talk about the issues that they're all up against, right? Now, none of this, you're not even working for that company anymore. But the concept is you are the connector. You are the one bringing them to the table, much like we are, right? The hope here is just to provide value by bringing other experts together and allowing them to share with one another. You don't always have to be the source, but you can be the enabler. And when you think about that in the business context that everyone's probably sitting here, what if you were the enabler of your executives' video content very quickly? Now, that video content is not going to rank the way you want it to, but the transcriptions of that could be quite interesting. You could get quotes out of those transcriptions, which are really easy to do out of YouTube, by the way. You don't even have to make the video public, and you can still get the transcription, so you'll have basically a free transcription service. You now have these quotes from your executives, and you can get them approved, hopefully by PR fairly quickly, in the way that your company is dealing with X problem that deals with COVID. Figure out how people are searching for that, which, by the way, you're not going to find in anything except for probably Google Trends, as well as like autocompletes. So I would go looking that stuff up, decide what you want to go after, make a little piece of content about it, and get it out there. You know, the beautiful part about that piece of content, and if it's good, your company will promote it through all the channels. It will do it on email, and it will put a link to it off of its homepage. And all of a sudden, because of the timeliness and the value, your piece of content is no longer relegated to the deep depths of your website's blog, where sometimes people will care, but oh no, that's early stage content, so no one really cares because there's no conversion button on it. Right now, that just became like the most important thing your company could do. So it's funny how, to your point earlier, Michael, where you said like the business need and everything, we flip it, right? Right now, early stage content is actually the most important for most businesses because they're trying to explain what the heck's going on. Now, early stage content in this case is being very PR. But you don't have to be very PR. You can just be real. Imagine if you had 3 executives from your company talking about what they think will happen or what they feel will happen, as long as it's approved, you know, especially in the big companies. It can then be put together, stitched together, actually have the video and the write-up together, and you just created an awesome piece of content that just did a great job getting your company out there as a thought leader in the space in a time and place where need is. I mean, that's not that far-fetched, right? I mean, we could do that if we just put our minds to it. So I would say everything from like, you know, the cold outreach email that Merch is talking about, which I think is awesome, to the creative approach that Trevor is taking in trying to help someone brainstorm reshaping their business so they can stay in business, so he can continue to make them move forward, to, you know, Michael's approach of, you know, you have to take this time to be, and dare I sum this up into, more of an extrovert and more willing to be, to tie yourself to, you know, metrics and KPIs, because, you know what, this is the funny part. I mean, it's not funny, but like, you're allowed to be wrong. It's COVID. No one knows what's on the other side of this thing. Come on, guys. Like, you can take the risk.
Yeah, I'll tell you the other side, again, having done this for a long time, you know, and it all being metrics driven with very large brands. I hate to say this, but they're not going to remember, right? I mean, we're on to the next thing. So you put the stake in the ground. Here's my plan. You know, it's a $300,000 SEO, whatever, content bill, blah, blah, blah. This is what it's going to deliver over this time. You know, raise that 50%, you know, make it aggressive. Of course, there's always points around this, right, that give you the out. There are so many things that have to happen for all of that to work. There are IT problems, logistics, content approval, blah, blah, right, that the brand gets held up. But as the SEO, if we put the plan together properly with big metrics against it, you know, all things go well, man, we're going to kill it. Okay, we're going to have this 300% increase in blank, and here's what we're going to do with, you know, trap, whatever it's going to be. You put the stake in the ground, and then you go fight for that. They're going to be on to the next thing in 6 months. Believe me, they're never going to come back really, and you will have reasons, if they do, on why you may not have been able to hit maybe some of those metrics that are going to come a few months after that anyway. So yep. I wouldn't be afraid of it. That's all I can tell you from history.
You're right. You're right. And COVID is, I hate to say it, but it's a huge excuse, and it's a huge opportunity in that, guess what? If the idea I just gave out of like putting those executives together doesn't shoot to the top of the list, I don't know what would, because right now, anything COVID related gets to the top of almost every company's list, right? So if you can do something that A, is valuable, because I'm not asking you to take advantage, I'm asking you to use the opportunity properly and objectively to actually help people. And I think you all here and virtually watching are in a unique value proposition to seize that and make that a reality. So don't let that pass you by. And to Pat's point, now that we're all on video so much, like, you know, get out of your, a lot of problems that SEOs have had, and I say this a lot, it's exec versus tech, right? Like, and can they speak exec and can they speak tech? A lot can speak tech, but can't speak exec. And so they're geniuses in one hand, but then they can't get their point across in the other. This is a great, if you're one of those people, this is a great opportunity to level the playing field and try, because right now we're all trying to get, we all were thrust into this medium immediately, and we're all just trying to figure it out together. So no one's going to really judge you. Get out of your shell, turtles. You're much faster than you think you are. And you're actually quite adept. I think that you're allowing yourself to kind of be pigeonholed, and now is the time to kind of rise up. Dare I say that? So I know we are almost at time here. If anyone has a quick question or wants to throw something in, I have not been watching the chat, but I know Pat has probably diligently been doing that. Got anyone want to ask a quick one or make a quick statement? This is where it gets awkward, guys. I'm like, anyone? Oh, I didn't do my watermark yet. So you guys know it's not a deep fake, because no one could ever pull that one off. Well, you know what? I think what we'll do is I'll ask the following. If you guys please take the time to join the LinkedIn group. I know the chat is very valuable here, but it's a heck of a lot more valuable when it can be done with an even larger group. Something that can live on longer. Z, I see you. Thank you for joining today. Z Hoffman's going to be our guest on Monday. Very excited, from Distilled. Michael, thank you so much for sharing all of that wisdom with us. I think everyone can take a lot away from this conversation and really learn about how to flip their business in a way that allows them to do what we know they can do, right? I know you can do this. This is why I've invested at least 12 to 15 years in this industry, because I know that some of the smartest people live here. They're just not getting the credit they deserve. And I want to see them get that credit. And then tomorrow, join us at 12 p.m. as usual, same bat channel, same bat station. Any older people like me would know what that reference is to. We are going to have our friend Brett Waters from Ariat, an awesome e-commerce company in the US, coming to tell us about the struggles between paid and organic, what they've seen happening, and what he's seeing happen on his website and in his industry. So please tune in tomorrow for that. Can't wait to see you all there. Continue the conversation. Please be active in the LinkedIn group. We love this. Please invite friends, family, people that can actually take from this conversation and learn. We're here to help one another. If you need anything, we're just a phone call or a video chat away. So let us know. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.